I had been hunting for a vintage video game console for weeks when I stumbled upon a listing on Craigslist. The console was exactly what I wanted, and the price was too good to pass up. The seller, a guy named Mike, seemed eager to make the sale. We agreed to meet at his house to test the console, which was unusual but not unheard of, so I agreed. The day came and I found myself standing in front of Mike's house. It looked like an ordinary suburban home, but something felt off. A strange sense of unease settled in the pit of my stomach as I rang the doorbell. Mike answered the door with a polite smile and invited me inside. As we descended into his basement, a wave of discomfort washed over me. The dimly lit, cluttered space was filled with bizarre, unsettling decorations that sent shivers down my spine. I tried to shake off the feeling, reminding myself that I was here for the console. Mike left the basement briefly to fetch the video game console. And that's when I noticed something that sent chills down my spine. Against one of the walls were rows of shackles, heavy and rusted, as if they had seen far too much use. Panic surged through me, and I knew I had to do something. I discreetly pulled out my phone, trying to capture evidence of this disturbing discovery. I managed to snap a photo of those sinister shackles, praying it would serve as proof. When Mike returned with the console, my heart raced as I fumbled for an excuse to leave. With a shaky voice, I told him I'd forgotten something important at home and that I had to go immediately. I could sense his disappointment, but I didn't care. I rushed out of his basement and back to my car, my mind racing. As soon as I was safely away from that house, I called the police and explained what I had seen. They assured me they would investigate. Later, they revealed that Mike had a criminal record related to abduction, confirming my worst fears. That night, as I lay in bed, I couldn't shake the feeling of dread. I knew I had narrowly escaped a horrifying fate, and I couldn't help but wonder about the countless others who might not have been as lucky. I'd been on the hunt for a good deal on a used smartphone for weeks. Money was tight, and I couldn't afford to splurge on a brand new one. That's when I came across it, the perfect listing on Craigslist of all places. The smartphone was exactly what I wanted, and the price was unbelievably low. It almost seemed too good to be true. The seller, a guy named Alex, agreed to meet me in a deserted parking lot late at night. I know it sounds risky, but I was desperate for a good deal. So, I reluctantly agreed to the location and time. The night arrived, and I found myself driving to the eerie, dimly lit parking lot. It was unsettling being there at such an odd hour, but I couldn't resist the allure of that cheap smartphone. As I pulled up to the agreed spot, I saw a figure standing by a lamppost. Relief washed over me, thinking it was Alex. However, as I got closer, I realized something was horribly wrong. The figure was not a person at all. It was a mannequin dressed in clothes, propped up against the lamppost. Panic surged through me, and I felt a cold sweat forming on my forehead. My instincts screamed at me to leave, to get out of there as fast as possible. I turned on my heel to make a hasty exit when suddenly my phone rang. The caller ID displayed Alex. My heart pounded in my chest as I answered the call. Alex's voice was eerily calm as he said, "I've been watching you this whole time, Sarah. You shouldn't have tried to run." My blood ran cold, and I didn't waste a moment. I bolted to my car, fumbling with my keys, and sped away from that creepy parking lot. I could feel my heart racing as I glanced nervously at my rearview mirror, half expecting to see Alex following me. For days afterward, I was haunted by the strange encounter. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had narrowly escaped something sinister. I decided to dig deeper into Alex's online presence, trying to find any clues about who he really was. It was a sleepless night filled with anxiety as I uncovered snippets of his social media profiles. They were eerie, to say the least, filled with cryptic messages and unsettling images. The next morning, I took my findings to the police. They seemed concerned, but warned me that without concrete evidence, there wasn't much they could do. Nevertheless, they promised to keep an eye on the situation. In the weeks that followed, I became increasingly paranoid. I changed my locks, installed security cameras around my home, and even considered moving to a different city. The fear of being watched was a constant presence in my life. Eventually, the police contacted me with some disturbing news. They had discovered that Alex had a criminal record related to abduction and had recently been released from prison. My heart sank as I realized how close I had come to becoming one of his victims. The experience left me deeply scarred, and I became an advocate for online safety, urging others to be cautious when dealing with strangers on platforms like Craigslist. I had learned the hard way that some deals were just too good to be true, and that safety should always come